86. The mental process that involves discovering, analyzing, and solving issues is called problem solving. 87. The type of change an individual conforms to the needs of a social group is conformity. 88. Which officer is responsible for procuring items or equipment for hospitals and district clinics? Medical Equipment Officer. 89. A process which begins with a deficiency and triggers behavior aimed at a goal or incentive is motivation. 90. The interpretation of the message received, where a receiver attaches meaning to the message, is called decoding. 91. Who came up with the theory that emphasizes that people are motivated by the desire to achieve a hierarchy of results? Maslow. 92. The ability to inspire and influence others to contribute to the attainment of the objectives is called leadership. 93. The leadership style where a leader takes all decisions and assigns all responsibility to himself is called autocratic leadership. 94. The type of motivation where there is inner gratification and feeling of fulfillment is called intrinsic motivation. 95. The ethical consideration that a manager takes when taking a decision that emphasizes on keeping one's commitments and promises. Integrity. 96. What document presents activities and corresponding budgets with the different clinic of the districts? The master budget. 97. The process of comparing individual job performance against standards for the individual position is performance evaluation. 98. Which type of McGregor's theory says that people will avoid work if possible because they dislike it? Theory X. 99. The term used where ministries have to work together to accomplish their goals is cooperating, partnership, or collaboration. 100. Which stage of decision-making process uses audits, checklists, ratings, and rankings to review and analyze the results? Stage 8. Now we move on to Section D of our June 2018 GNC qualifying examination paper. Section D, number 1. You are the nursing officer in the medical department at your hospital. The in-charge for male ward reports you that she is not in talking terms with the in-charge for the female ward. You decided to resolve the problems between the two in-charges by coming up with a decision that will resolve the conflict. Answer the following questions. A. State 5 common causes of conflict. We have 1. Communication. A breakdown in communication will result in conflict. Number 2. Power divisions. Everyone wants power. In the process of handling the processes, we have conflict which might ensue. Everyone wants a promotion, as an example. Resource allocation. This is one common cause of conflict. Every department, everyone wants more resources to be allocated their side. So it can also become a source of conflict. Competing personalities is also a cause of conflict. Role confusion or ambiguity, unfair treatment, inadequate training, and bullying and harassment. These are all common causes of conflict. As you have seen, we've put more than 5, but the question required you to just state any 5. Part B. Explain the 5 conflict resolution methods you would use. In managing conflict, we've got different strategies which we can use. As we did in the matching above, we looked at matching of the conflict resolution methods which are used. We have one avoiding method. In avoiding method, you'll use the avoiding method where I will just ignore or withdraw from the conflict. This method works well if the discomfort or confrontation exceeds the potential rewards of resolution of the conflict. I'll ignore both the in charges if I'm to use this method in managing conflict. Compromising strategy. I'll encourage both the in charges to give up a little bit of what they want, and no one will get everything they want. This will be fair, although no one may be particularly happy with the final outcome. Accommodating strategy. I will encourage the 2 in charges to lower their assertiveness and increase on cooperation so that both parties' concerns are satisfied, and also so that they sacrifice some of their concerns too. There's collaborative strategy. In this strategy, both the in charges are supposed to be both assertive and high on cooperation. With this approach, I'll be seeking to make both parties to satisfy their concerns rather than to allow them to fight for one to get their way. Competing strategy is another strategy that will be used. As the manager, you'll be high on assertiveness and low on cooperation. This will be a partial forceful approach where your decision prevails and the in charges have to take it as it is. These are the strategies, 5 of them, that can be used in resolving conflict. Part C. Describe the decision-making process. The decision-making process is the process of making choices by identifying a decision, gathering information, and assessing alternative resolutions. Using a step-by-step decision-making process helps make more deliberate, thoughtful decisions by organizing relevant information and defining alternatives. The first stage is identifying the problem. This is identification of the purpose of the decision. Stage 2 is analyze the problem. At this stage, this is where you gather information which is relevant to this decision that you want to make, as well as in relation to the problem at hand. Stage 3, you develop alternative solutions. This is where you do an evaluation of the alternatives that you have. These are the potential solutions to the problems that you have. So you have to generate alternatives, option A, option B, option C, moving on. The fourth one, you select the best solution. This is selecting the best alternative out of the number of alternatives that you would have generated in stage 3. Stage 5, you convert the best decision into action. This is the executing the decision. You put it into action to see whether the decision or the solution to the problem, it really works. Stage 6, you follow up on the action taken, and these are the stages that we have. Although you will find that there are some other tables or other charts that will show you 7 steps, 8 steps, but these are the common steps that we have in making a decision. Then we move on to part D, Explain 4 challenges you would face during the process of taking a decision. The first one is incomplete information. It can be a challenge in the process of taking a decision. If the information is not complete, you're not able to make a decision which is strong or which can last or which can solve the prevailing problem at hand. So it is very difficult to make a decision if the information is incomplete. Unsupporting environment. A person might have all the complete information at their disposal, but if the environment in which they are operating is not supportive, you find that it can become a challenge in making a decision. A very good example is when you don't have supportive teammates, supportive management, supportive leaders, it becomes a challenge. The other challenge is non-acceptance by subordinates. Sometimes when you make decisions, it becomes difficult, as if the subordinates are to refuse the proposals that you've put on the table, it means your decisions might remain hanging, as there's no one who can put them into practice if the subordinates are in total non-acceptance of those alternatives. So non-acceptance by subordinates can also be a challenge during the process of taking a decision. Ineffective communication. As we said earlier on, communication can be a source of conflict. Also, in the process of taking a decision, if the communication is ineffective, it can pose a challenge and it can make it difficult for a final decision to be arrived at. Incorrect timing. Some decisions, they need to be made in specific times. It is important for a person, for a leader, for a manager to time their decision making. A very good example is when staff morale is low, you can't put a decision which affects them. You need to look at their mood, their motivation, and you time your decision making. So incorrect timing can be one of a challenge which can be faced whilst taking a decision. Information overload. A lot of information can also be a challenge during the process of taking a decision. Impulsiveness can also be a challenge. Misidentifying the problem. Sometimes people, they follow all the stages in taking a decision, but the steps that they are taking, they are working on a wrong problem. So as we talked about in terms of the stages which are involved in making a decision, it is important to identify the appropriate problem at hand, which needs to be solved. So the moment you misidentify the problem, that it means all the process you have taken in making the decisions, they don't count to anything. So these are some of the challenges that can be faced when making a decisions. These questions required only 4, but in this we've given you 8, which means you've got 4 other extras to look at. Question number 2.